Simmons. She is a graduate of the University of Texas, and she got her experience working with apex predators for 15 years at SeaWorld. So she went from those black and white apex predators to this one, and now she's going to teach us all about bears.
Well, good morning. Thank you for coming. This is a fantastic turnout. Thank you, Kathy and Lisa from the city. They've done a fantastic job of pulling this event together. I really appreciate the opportunity to be able to speak to you folks, especially in Mount Dora, because this has been quite a hot spot for bear activity in the past several months and actually the past couple of years. And this may be news to a lot of you. We get a lot of calls where people say, I've lived here 20 years and I've never seen a bear before, and there's a lot of good reasons for why you're seeing them now. We'll go over part of that as we go through the presentation. I'm actually, Kathy, is it possible to turn the lights down to better see the presentation? Again, I'm Elisa Simmons. I'm the area bear biologist for Florida Fish and Wildlife. Also with me is Janelle Musser. She is also the other area bear biologist because we have a lot of bear activity in Central Florida. I'll show you how that looks on the map. And then in the back of the room is Lori Lindsay. She's part of our bear team as well. So after the presentation, feel free to grab any one of the three of us to ask your questions if I don't cover something here or if you think of something later. So I'd like to introduce myself this way. I think a lot of you in the audience know who this is. I don't show him at schools because kids do have no clue, of course. I'm dating myself here. Yes. Since I started bear stuff about 8 years ago, I cannot tell you the number of times where people call in and say, I have a 500-pound bear crossing through my property. What do I do about it? And I show up at their front door to help them with this situation. They open the door and they go, they sent you? I think that's what they intended. They were thinking was coming. So I don't quite grow hair that well, but yeah. So I tell people I don't have to wrestle the bear. I simply have to outsmart the bear, and I'm going to help you do that too. So this is a very interesting reaction that I've gotten for years. I do want to talk about bear biology. I'm going to go through that fairly quickly and talk about bear biology, bear behavior, so that you're educated and you know what you're looking at when you do see bears on the landscape here in Florida, which you will likely see, even here in Mount Dora. And then I want to talk about kind of where we're going with bear management towards bear-wise communities. It's a really interesting evolution that we've had educationally throughout the state, and we've really made amazing headway in the past 10 years, and it's going really well, and we want to keep progressing and educating folks on how to coexist with Florida's largest land mammal, the black bears. And by the way, there's only one type of bear in Florida, and that's the Florida black bear. So if you see a polar bear, you'll want to let us know. Please let us know. That's not normal. Okay, so you should see Florida's black bears. We get calls all the time like, eek, I saw a bear. And we say, yes, that's normal in Florida. There was always, you know, since the dawn of time, there was obviously a very healthy and robust population here. Back in the last century, they were hunted nearly to extinction. In the 70s, there were about 300 bears left in the state. And that's why those of you who have lived here a long time didn't used to see bears very often, because there weren't very many. And it's a conservation success story. We've listed the bears. Florida Fish and Wildlife, they had ceased all hunting. They listed the bears as threatened. They became protected that way. And we've seen the population rebound to now there's over 4,000 bears in the state and rising. The population is growing rapidly. At the same time, the human population in Florida is growing very quickly. So when you're looking at, these are very recent numbers. We did a population survey in the past several years across the state. This is where we are right here. We're the Central Bear Management Unit, and we have over really around 1,200 or more bears. And what we're looking at is 3 populations throughout the state, over 1,000 bears. That's pretty impressive, and that is actually ahead of the plan that we had put in place to try to go for that 5-6 years ago. So the population is rebounding rapidly. We're seeing a growth rate, especially in the Panhandle, that is very quick. The cub survival rate is amazing up there, so we're seeing a great expansion of bears. And when you have the bear population expanding, they spread out into areas that they hadn't been in very recently. So suddenly you have bears in Oviedo, Claremont, Mount Dora. They're really spreading out, and these communities are calling us at FWC saying, we're suddenly seeing bears. Well, that is the expansion of that population. So the upshot of that, if you look at this graph, the specific numbers may not be as important as much as this graduation up here, up to over 6,000 calls. These are the complaint calls that come into Florida Fish and Wildlife. These are the people who go, I have a bear conflict, and they call us. Keep in mind that a lot of people who see bears or have a problem with bears don't think to call Florida Fish and Wildlife. They call 911. This doesn't include those calls. So this is just us. And so you see in the past 10 years the rapid rise in bear complaint calls. And so we really have thrown a lot of resources, and the state legislature has appropriated funding to us and new positions for bear management. That's how Janelle and I came into our jobs, and Lori as well, with contractors and team, to be able to address as much of the human-bear conflict as possible so that we can educate folks and bring down some of the bear conflict numbers. And you see a spike along the way. I think somewhere around here we started putting out the cute little magnets with our phone numbers on it so people knew to call us if they had questions about bears. And then certainly, in 2013, we had our first really serious bear attack in a number of years over in Seminole County. We had a couple of them within about a year and a half time. We had 3 serious bear attacks in Central Florida. So you see a lot more calls coming in that range as people were a little more concerned for their safety and wanted to know more about the bears that they were seeing in their area. So most of our complaint calls come from these green counties. If you can see, over 90% come from these counties, and you guys in Mount Dora are right in the middle of it, right over here. So we have a lot of bear activity. We look at Seminole, Orange, Volusia, Marion, and Lake counties as ground zero for bear activity throughout Florida. Certainly South Florida, Lee and Collier counties are picking up as a hot spot. The Panhandle is really becoming very active as we get a lot of people. But the thing you're looking at in Central Florida is the high density bear population and the high density human population bump into each other very regularly. All around the Ocala National Forest and Wekiva River Basin, which is you guys are very close to, those bears are coming out of there. That's a high density of bear area, and the humans live all around it. And so we are going to expect to see them in our neighborhoods and in our communities and our towns. That is not an unusual event. This is what it looks like on our database. When we map those calls that come in and we plot them on the map, this is just Central Florida. We zoomed in on this, and it's dizzying. I know. As a bear biologist, we go, wow, there's plenty of work to go around. We're kept very busy because these bears, these are the calls that come in, and we are certainly, you're looking at Seminole Forest down into this is the little Wekiva Rock Springs area right here, Seminole County and along Markham Woods Road where they have an urban bear management zone, across into Apopka, and up here in the Mount Dora right in here. This is why you're seeing bears. They're not that far away from you. This is great bear habitat, and they're spreading out, as you can see from this. The red, so the black bear, the black little icons that you see, those are the bear complaint calls and the sightings and the bears in my garbage can or up a tree or, chased my dog or, got in my garage. That's what those calls are. The red dots on there are the roadkill bears. Oh. Those are the mortalities that we have, and we do collect data on every bear mortality. So if you do see a bear that's been hit by a car, it's a great idea to call it in. We collect that bear, and we collect biological data from that. We take measurements. We take a tooth sample to age that bear. We take a hair sample for DNA. All of this is excellent biological data that we can use in research for the betterment of the species and knowing more about the bears in Florida. So these red dots, that is a significant thing to us. We like to look at where is this occurring frequently so that we can put up signage to warn the public that this is an area with heavy bear crossings, and so that's where you see those signs. It's a good idea for us to be able to alert people to slow down. Bears move around a lot at dawn and dusk and overnight, and they're very hard to see when it's dark. So it's really a good idea when you see those wildlife crossing signs, or if you're out moving around at night in an area that's known for bears, you see this map, it's a good idea to slow down and keep an eye out for them because they're really tough, they think they're really tough, and they just dash across the road, and that can not only harm the bear, but that's very dangerous for public safety as well for the drivers and the vehicles. So pretty much the roadkill is kind of our biggest threat to Florida's bears currently. We lose about 250 bears a year to roadkill. And that's statewide. That's a very big number. And like I said, we try to recover as many of those bears as possible so that we can get the data. But that's really a high number, and you're seeing that number increase not only because we have more bears, but we have a lot more people on the roads now. You know, each year as Florida's population increases, we are coming across each other. People are very busy. The roads are very busy. So we're having a great deal more of that. So, and to that end, people ask me all the time, is that a real bear? I brought Bernard today. This is our bear pelt over here, so that not only can you get a safe picture with him, see what he feels like up close. You know, people and kids are very curious about our bears. This is the safest way to do it. Please don't take your pictures too close. If you see a bear up a tree, don't walk right up under that tree to take your pictures. Be very cautious and respect their space as a very large, unpredictable animal. But Bernard is an excellent cautionary tale too, because he was hit by a car, and that's how we got him. And hopefully he's an excellent ambassador for our bears by being able to come along to these educational presentations and community talks, because you do get an opportunity to see what they look like and feel like up close. Take that bear selfie. You can post it. It's a safe way to do it. Right here, we don't frown upon that. Go ahead, because it is a safe way to do that. And do keep him in mind when you're driving, because you know he is that cautionary tale, unfortunately. And he was about a 350-pound male, so he's a really amazing specimen. Gorgeous thing to be able to bring with us for you to see. I also have a lot of educational literature and handouts and a magnet over there and stickers and whistles. Feel free to visit that table and take home some of the resources that are over there. Our phone number is on there as well, so that you know who to call and what to report if you are having bear or wildlife activity. So check that out before you go. All right, a little bit about bears before we get along. They are the true omnivores. So when you look at the black bear diet, 80% of it is plant-based. That's pretty significant. I think a lot of people assume, oh, they eat fish because they see that on TV all the time. Florida's black bears, 80% plant-based diet. Humans are not on the menu. So let's allay some of that fear and panic right off the bat. We have some people that are like, hey, there's a bear. Well, largely they are very shy animals in Florida. They tend to be more timid. Fight or flight. Florida's black bears tend to choose flight, which is excellent. That's good news for us. So they are primarily looking for berries, acorns, insects even. They get a lot of their protein from that. You know, if you're talking about the saw palmetto berries, hearts of palm, if you have birds of paradise planted in your yard, you may see those get shredded by bears. They pull out the centers and gnaw on those. So they have a very diverse and adaptable menu. And that's really an important thing, because, you know, people ask me all the time, well, there's all this development going on. Is there enough food for the bears? Well, we haven't had any serious droughts lately. As far as we can tell, the food availability in the forest and in the woods is quite robust. It's very good currently, but bears are adaptable. And they know that they can come into our neighborhoods, knock over a garbage can, and grab a pizza crust or our Publix chicken or donuts or the kids' leftover lunchbox items and get a really